You always sigh.
I do, because I'm like, oh, Erika has the hiccups. So, should I scare the crap out of you? No. Today, I guess I could just talk as much as I want now, because Erika's holding her breath. No, I'm kidding. Not that that's ever a problem. I talk a lot anyways. Today we're gonna talk about on-set memories, and in particular, like, some of our favorite ones that stand out. We didn't really prepare anything for this. We just thought we'd sit down and just, like, reminisce a little bit about working on set.
The thing that kind of, like, we didn't have a podcast prepared, like an idea prepared. And I have, like, a long list of topics, and it was on there, and I was kind of drawn to it because, like, 10 minutes earlier I went on Instagram, and on my Explore feed there was this tattoo that was, like, Augie from Wonder wearing the space helmet and wearing a Star Wars t-shirt, and it was just so cute, and I was like, oh, that brings back memories.
Yeah. That was a nice set. Like, I got to visit you when you were working on that set.
Yeah.
And it was just, like, such a friendly, fun set to be on.
Well, Stephen, the director, said that, like, a lot of famous people auditioned, like, especially for the daughter. And he said, like, yes, they were good, but he also wanted someone who he knew was, like, kind. And, like, obviously he cast Isabella Vidovich, I think is how you say her last name. And she's, like, the sweetest person ever. She's so nice. And talented. Like, she did such a good job.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
You have so many good memories from Mr. Young.
I'm going to try and think of some ones that aren't Mr. Young first. Because, I mean, the thing is, I had a career in film and television for, 5 or 6 years before I even did Mr. Young. So, I mean, actually this month, in October, it's 9 years.
Since Mr. Young started?
Since we started filming Mr. Young. It's been over 9 years since I auditioned for it. Because I auditioned for it in the summer of, like, just the sort of middle end of the summer of 2010. Yeah, it was pretty crazy how time flies. And then the show ended 6 years ago. Anyways, but, like, a good memory. Oh, it's so sad it's over. But a good memory. So let me think. In no particular order, I guess, right?
Yeah.
One of the really good memories I had was working on, I think it was Santa Buddies. And looking at the call sheet, I had just gotten a, like, set with my mom, of course. And we were looking at the call sheet, and my mom was like, oh, Christopher Lloyd is working on this. And I didn't really associate the name with, like, the face and the actor, because I was still quite young. I was, like, 11 or something like that. And my mom was like, the movie, one of your favorite movies, My Favorite Martian. Right? That's what it's called. My Favorite Martian, yeah. So he's in this, and I'm like, holy crap. And I'm, like, walking around Circus, which is, like, where all the trailers are. And then he's, like, sitting in his trailer with the door wide open, just, like, looking over his script. And I'm like, ah! So I run back to my mom, and I'm like, he's there. And then my mom's like, well, your dad would love an autograph from him. So what I did was I went and I asked him if I could have an autograph for my dad. And I got it, like, for my dad's birthday. It was, like, a gift that I gave to my dad.
Nice.
And he was just super sweet and just down to earth and totally fine with it. And just crazy. Like, I got to be in a scene with him, too.
It's so funny because I feel like everybody has, like, a different thing that they associate with Christopher Lloyd. Because, like, I think most people associate Back to the Future. You obviously think of My Favorite Martian. I always think of Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Such a good movie. I've only seen it once, and that was with you.
Oh, great movie. I think we had it on VHS, and we still watch it all the time. Great movie.
Yeah.
I always think that he's older than he is, because he was, like, aged up in movies when he was younger. So sometimes I'm like, is he immortal?
Yeah. How old is he? Is he, like, 110? I know. Yeah, such a talented man. Like, and I even watched some of like Taxi, which he was in.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, we should watch it. Just so good, like and like I don't know, classic.
Not really okay. Words. When we filmed Birdwatcher, my mom wrote it, and she wrote in that the character that I played, Caitlin, was supposed to kiss this guy, like make out with him, and I was so nervous because I had never kissed anyone on screen before, you know. And my mom could see. She's like, "Do you want me to take it out?" And I'm like we're like 5 minutes before filming the scene. I'm like, "Are you allowed to do that?" She's like, "Yeah, I wrote the script." So she wrote it as he kisses me on the cheek.
Oh yeah.
I was like, "Thanks, Mom."
That's funny.
That was a fun movie to work on, but it was so stressful because there was no time.
Yeah, and the stakes were high because it's like, especially like afterwards, it did become this like, I don't know how to describe it. This important movie.
Yeah.
Right? I think you guys I don't really know much about the filming process because I didn't know you then, but I think you guys probably were treating it that way because it was like Siobhan's directorial debut, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we shot a feature in 14 days.
Jeez. And I mean, the thing is, that's a really short amount of time to film a movie.
Not in Canada.
But not in Canada, not in British Columbia, where we shoot movies in 10 to 12 days usually, especially like TV movies, like
I was gonna
a
say,
lot of Hallmark
all your TV
movies.
movies, those are like...
Yeah. Like
so
30
short.
days is considered short. And that's a lot of time for here.
Yeah.
Like,
Canadian stuff gets no time. Like,
mm-hmm.
US stuff, my God, they film features for like 4 to 6 months.
Yeah. I once worked on a project that said 50 days. And I was like, it's a movie, right? And I was like, wow. And they were on day 20. And I was like, wow, I thought that's a long time.
Yeah.
But you can take months to film a movie. I mean, it totally depends on what it is. If it's like a huge blockbuster movie that's going to go in theaters, and of course you're going to need months or even like the majority of a year. But
I can't remember how long it took to film the second To All the Boys, but the third one was 35 days, and they were talking about how short that was. They're basically like a Netflix TV movie style, like type of thing, you know?
Yeah.
I'm like, 35 days? You don't know what you're talking about. But to be fair, 35 days, and they were filming in 3 different countries. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
Wow. Oh, yeah.
Well,
You don't have to give any more information.
No, the public knows. When I first said it, I was like, oh crap, I shouldn't have said anything.
Yeah.
But they publicized it, so
okay.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I won't get in trouble. They don't even watch the podcast.
I'm always worried that I'm going to say something... I've started working on set again, right? In a non-acting capacity.
Yeah.
And I'm loving it because I just love being on set. But I'm always worried that, like, you know, I like talking about being on set, but it's like you work on projects that are kind of like almost top secret.
No, it's so hard to know. Like, because you sign a thing that says you can't talk about the project on social media, or sometimes, like, I just signed one yesterday that said that I can't talk negatively about the project on social media. I can talk about it.
Interesting.
It has to be positive.
Yeah. Well, and like I worked on something the other day, and I was like, okay, I don't know if I can talk about this because it seems like a really like big deal. It's got a lot of backing behind it, and it seems like it's going to be just like a huge thing, right? And then I look up the producer/director, and he's like literally saying day one and saying like the project name and like all this stuff, and even like on set we have one name for it, but the official name, which is on IMDb, he's literally calling it the official name, but people were walking by set, like public, and asking the crew, oh, what are you guys filming? And they'd say this other name, which is like the code name for it. And I'm like, what, are we allowed to say anything? Or like...
People would ask us on To All the Boys, they'd be like, oh, what are you filming? Is it a big deal? I'm like, I don't know what it is. And they're like, are you working on it? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, well, what's it called? I'm like, I don't know.
That's awesome. Because like the last couple things I worked on, I just worked one day. So that's fine, because if someone asks me like, oh, what is this? I can say, well, I don't know. This is my only day on set, and I'm just been told to do this one thing. So
I feel like all of my favorite on-set memories now are like not from acting.
I just like, for me, I just love being on set.
Yeah.
Right. I just always find it cool to be around like the crew and the process of filmmaking, and like the other day I was just enthralled by watching this director producer work, and I loved watching his process and just seeing him like watch it and be excited. He would get excited about how it looked, and I would too, like seeing it on the monitor, and I'd be like, whoa, that's such a cool shot, and like I didn't expect it to be that way. And
yeah, that's how I felt about To All the Boys as well, because Michael, the director, was also the DOP. I don't know how he could mentally do that. That's crazy.
I don't know how anybody can do more than one job.
DOP is like cinematographer.
Yeah. Director of photography.
Yeah. So basically, like usually there's the director who's like the audience's
the audience's what's it called?
Like the person who like represents them, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the audience's...
You can think about that. I'll keep talking. Like their representative to make sure that like the film makes sense, and just, you know, to make sure that the audience will like the film, basically. And the cinematographer or DOP makes sure that the lighting is good, that the shots work, and, you know, all this, like that they, you know, that they're able to like shoot it in a way that makes sense.
Yeah, and basically take what's written on the page and make it a physical, like visual thing. Yeah. Rather than you reading it and you're thinking about it in your head. Yeah. The DOP translates that to film.
Yeah, like an example is like the director could be like, okay, I want this shot from like, you know, over on this side, and then the DOP could be like, oh, well, like it would make more sense if we're like a little bit more over here to see like it's so hard to describe.
And then they know what lens to use, they know what size shot to have, what lighting to have.
Okay, but as I was saying, so if there's like a wall there, you know, it's like, oh, we can't shoot through the wall, right? Like it's hard to describe.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, we're not cinematographers, so we don't really even know the full scope of what the knowledge needed to be one is.
But I can't imagine doing both jobs. Like, I don't know if he even slept for that whole, like...
Well, on Mr. Young, the guy who is the camera coordinator, which is essentially the DOP of a multicam show, I don't think he ever directed an episode of Mr. Young, but he's also a director. Like, I think he not that long ago directed a Disney show with, like, Zendaya or something like that, and it was, like, he was directing, and that...
Must have been a while ago, because she doesn't do Disney anymore.
Yeah, maybe... was her last show that she did. I think they did like a season, or maybe it was just a pilot. I can't remember. But yeah, maybe it was a few years ago now.
There was a pilot that I auditioned for a couple years ago that was for like Family Channel or something. That's like Canadian Disney, right?
No, Family Channel is American.
Oh, okay. Well, it was for Family Channel, and it was the coolest concept ever, and it didn't get picked up. And I was thinking, like, how come these like
original...
Yeah, like it was such a cool idea. Yeah. And yet there's like these weird shows that don't even make sense. Like, I'm not saying like that was like, I'm going off on a different thing. I'm not relating it to what you were saying where he was, you know, having this pilot or whatever, but it just reminded me that like there's some shows that are just so bad, and yet like, I mean, I don't know how the finished pilot turned out, but the idea, like the concept was so cool. And like kind of edgy for Family Channel, so maybe that's why, but I don't know. It would have been cool to work on.
I think about that about every project I audition for. This would be so much fun to work on. This would be cool to work on.
Well, remember I got shortlisted for this movie that filmed in Alberta. It was about like the robot dog.
Oh, right. Yeah. I remember that.
And Luke Perry was in it.
Yeah.
I was like so stoked. They're like, oh, it's between you and another girl and one other girl. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to book it. Didn't, of course.
But even if you don't, it's like, that's a huge accomplishment. Even if it's not like something you write down on your resume or anything, it's like you can say to yourself, like, hey, I can do this, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, this is kind of off topic about what we're talking about today, but like I said to you yesterday, I had an audition yesterday, and I had an audition the day before that. And both times after the audition, right away the casting director would be like, that's great, good job. But like, that's not what I expect. And I don't, this is terrible to say, but I don't believe them. You know, like I'm so used to, okay, thanks, see you later, like, thanks for coming in, right? Like, and also, like, the last couple of years, I was in LA, and I wasn't really getting very many auditions and whatnot, so it's interesting to come back and feel like I'm still improving. Not like I need improvement, but, like, that I know what I'm doing. Because it's like, yeah, I work hard, but I always feel like I could work harder and I could put more effort in, and that maybe I didn't do quite enough. But I don't know if that's just me being a perfectionist. Like, I feel that way on set too. Like on Mr. Young, I got into a groove, and it was a good, like, I got to know the producers and directors, and we could communicate and be like, okay, this is what needs work. Like, it's not like personal, it's constructive, and like, but then I find, especially with single camera stuff, like when I did Supernatural, I'd do a take and I'd be kind of like, how did I do? And the director wouldn't even care. Like, not that the director didn't care. The director was focused on other things. And it was like, I was entrusted with the responsibility that I know how to do my job. And that's just it's almost a foreign concept as an actor.
Well, I remember, I had only done, like, TV movies and, like, little things. And, like, the directors were all very nice. Like, I'm not saying that they weren't nice. But it was the same type of thing. They weren't, like, focused on the actors necessarily. Like, which means we were probably doing a good job. Yeah. And we didn't need any notes. Otherwise, they would have given us notes. Yeah. But, like, I was new, and I didn't know that, like, you know, I needed feedback, you know? And then when I did Wonder, like, Steven was so amazing. He would always come up to us and be like, that was great, like let's try this, or like do that exactly that again. Like, he would, like, you know, vocalize what he thought. Yeah. And then I remember telling a director that we know about that, and I was like, oh yeah, he was so nice and, like, so, like, personable. And she was like, yeah, all directors should be like that. Yeah. And I was like, really? But I mean, it's personal opinion, right? Like, I need that, like, validation almost, like, from the director, like, knowing that I'm doing okay. Yeah. Or, like, whereas I guess some people don't need that. I don't know.
Or, like, for me, I want to work with the director to get the best outcome, the best product. So if I'm doing something and there can be like a little improvement or adjustment, I'm welcome. Like, I'm open to hearing it. But at the same time, it depends on what we're working on. Like, if it's a movie, I feel like you're more likely to get that kind of thing. That's like true. The director talking to you and working with you. If it's a TV series and, like, you're not on it all the time, you're just on it, like, that one episode or day or whatever, I think it's kind of like, okay, we've hired you because we trust that you can just do it. Yeah. And we have got all this other stuff to focus on.
Also, like, when I first started, I had, like, small roles and stuff. And then in Wonder, I didn't have a large role. I mean, they cut, like, half of my scenes from the movie, which is fine. Like, you know, I don't care. But it was the first time that I had, like, kind of a bigger role, you know?
Yeah, in a big movie that was gonna be in theaters. I've never even been in a movie that's been in theaters. So, like, that's crazy.
It came out 2 years ago in November.
Wow. 2 years ago next month.
Wow.
That is crazy.
I can't believe that. That was such a fun movie to work on. Okay, the last day of filming, we filmed in Robson Square, downtown Vancouver. And they blocked off the square because we were using it as, like, a subway station, trying to look like New York. And they blocked it off so that pedestrians, like, local traffic could not come through. And, oh my God, we're in the middle of a take, and then they're like, okay, like, hold for a second, and we're like, what's going on? And I look over to the cameras, and there's this, like, elderly couple just standing right in front of the cameras, like, looking into them and, like, kind of looking around. And I think the first AD was like, "Hi, we're filming a movie. You need to leave." And they're like, "Oh, okay." And they're just, like, looking around. He's like,
yeah,
locations.
Yeah. Yeah, the other day on set, it was also the same thing. Can locations move all the public? Because, like, we were filming, like, on a walkway on the beach kind of thing, and there were a lot of people walking by, and
yeah,
I know it's just funny because people were totally friendly and everything, and the crew was production was even more understanding and fine with people walking by, but there was that one time when it's like, we gotta clear the line of sight. Can we just move, everybody? That's always funny.
Yeah. I have two things. Okay, from last week. So last week when I filmed in the cemetery, must have been, or was it this week? I can't remember. But the days are all a blur. Anyways, first off is that they did a take, and then this guy who works there just drives by in his little cart in the background. I was like, and there's locations everywhere. Like people were not allowed into the cemetery unless they were, like, going to mourn somebody. Yeah. And the second thing, I already told you this, but there was this woman with this little girl, and the little girl was on this grave, and she was like, "Daddy, Daddy." And I just started crying on the spot. Like, I was like I'm getting tears in my eyes right now thinking about it. And it's so stupid because this man walks up and he's like, "Okay, get off the grave." And she's like, "But Daddy, look at the grave." And I was like, oh, I thought her dad was dead. And nope, she was just trying to show him the grave. Yeah. And it wasn't funny. Like, it was a guy it was a PA. Yeah. It was her dad. So it wasn't like they were there to mourn anybody. No. He was working on set and they were visiting. Yeah. So I was a little embarrassed.
I was actually working at a cemetery last week.
What?
The first job. Yeah. And I was talking to some locations, like PAs, and they were talking about how they kept having to, like, remind the crew not to walk over the graves. Like, people, and, like, I think background too, just kept walking right over the graves.
We had to. Yeah. We were filming on top of graves.
Yeah. I mean, we filmed a short film in a cemetery.
Yeah, but we weren't that disruptive. No. Like, this, like, I actually almost tweeted, but then I thought, I better not, just in case I get in trouble, like, with the production. I almost tweeted, like, I don't think we should be allowed to film in cemeteries.
Yeah, I wonder, because essentially it's multiple people's private property, right? Because you buy the plot and you own that plot. Yeah. So, like,
did they ask each individual, like, family member of whoever died?
I wonder how that works. Like, if I don't even know how cemeteries work, but if the cemetery owns the entire land and then sells the plots to families, and those families own that land within the land, you know what I mean?
But I don't think it's necessarily like that, because in Switzerland you can buy a plot. Yeah. And then after 20 years, the government
digs you up
and cremates you. Yeah. And then sells it to somebody else. Yeah. So you're not really buying it.
You're leasing it for 20 years.
Yeah. Kind of weird.
Interesting. Yeah.
But I was kind of disturbed, like, being at a cemetery, and I'm, like, looking, and I'm like, wow, this girl died when she was 12, like, you know? And, like, most of the plots were, like, from the 1800s. We weren't filming in the new section of the cemetery, but still, it was, like, super disturbing.
Yeah, for me, I've always felt kind of unnerved in a cemetery. Maybe that's just how most people feel, but I grew up non-religious, so I never really spent time growing up. Like, I never went to church. I never went to a cemetery to visit anybody or anything. So, interesting experience as an adult to have to go to a cemetery for work.
Yeah. Well, when I was there, I was thinking, I could probably work here.
Yeah.
Like, taking care of a cemetery. Like,
Yeah.
not filming on top of it every day.
Yeah, I think the worst thing you have to deal with as somebody who works at a cemetery is, like, people.
Yeah.
Going there and doing shady stuff.
Well, when we were there, like, I was talking to this PG guy, and he was like, I said, it's kind of weird to be filming at a cemetery, don't you think? He's like, oh, why? Do you believe in ghosts? And I was like, no. He's like, you thought I was weird for thinking it was weird to film in a cemetery.
What's the weirdest place I've filmed?
For me, it's cemetery.
I feel like I filmed somewhere weirder.
Well, I mean, you had to be in a vat of milk.
I mean, yeah, that's in the studio, Mr. Young. There was a lot of weird stuff I had to do, but yeah. I had a lot of good memories. Every gag on Mr. Young was fun and a good memory.
I'm tired. I'm sorry.
Every podcast.
I'm gonna go to sleep. We should have a sleep cast.
Where we just fall asleep?
Yeah.
On the podcast? That should be a Twitch stream. I wonder if that's a Twitch stream thing that people do where they just fall asleep on stream. Like on purpose, not by accident.
I don't think I'd be able to.
No?
No, I think I would know, and like, I'm one of those people who, like, the night before work, I'll set an alarm. I'll set like 3 alarms. And then I wake up every half an hour throughout the night because I'm worried that my alarm's not going to go off.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'd be able to sleep on Twitch stream.
I feel like I have more, like, cool on-set memories, but I can't think of any right now.
Oh, no, I can't think of any either.
Like,
we need to do another one where we prepare.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, I have so many cool ones from Mr. Young, like, outfits that I got to wear. Like, I got to wear this cool, like, bowling shirt, and the woman who is in charge of wardrobe was telling me that she made the shirt for Elijah Wood on another show. So that was cool that I got to wear that.
Well, maybe we should do a Mr. Young cast. You just
Talk all about Mr. Young. There was a time where I was in just boxers and they put all these fake leeches on me. I had to run down the hall. Of course, like, the first time, like, okay, the one thing that I really like about working on set is the cool people you get to meet. And it's not just, like, cool directors, cool producers, cool actors. It's, like, I like meeting the crew. I like meeting, like, interesting special effects guys, interesting props guys, set deck, like, grips. I like talking to everybody because everyone's got a cool story from working on set, like we're trying to tell you right now. Catering.
Sorry. I had the best lunch yesterday.
Oh, yeah. And, like we ran into somebody that I worked with on Mr. Young who was in charge of special effects. And he's such a cool guy. Like, he served in the Air Force and has, like, really cool stories, like, kind of some top secret stuff, the Air Force, but, like...
This video's gonna get flagged.
Hashtag Area 51. And then he was, like... I got to work pretty close with him right away on Mr. Young because, like, one of the first things I had to do was, like, the gag where I was stuck in the vending machine. And so he had to, like, alter this vending machine so that, like, I'd fit in it and, like, have a mechanism for me to sit on so I could slide back and forth inside of the vending machine. And, like, we ran into him, like, last month, and he was just like, hey, remember that thing we did, the first one with the vending machine? That was so much fun. And,
when
like,
he was going on about the one with the remote?
The one with the remote where we had to time, like, I had a remote that I was throwing through a window and, like, breaking the glass of the window, and he had to time, he had a little explosive, I guess you call it, in the window that would shatter the glass, and he had to time it where the second the remote hit the window, he would set off that little squib to shatter the glass. And he said, like, first take, perfect timing, and, like, we'd go back, do playback on set and watch frame by frame and see it, like, the second it hits, it shatters, and it was just, like, so satisfying and perfect. And, like, that like, how we were able to work together to get it to just perfectly happen.
You
like,
need yourself another sitcom like that.
Yeah, that would be
the fun gags and stuff.
That would be good. That would be a good
Good.
Good. Yeah, Mr. Young was like the dream job.
Yeah.
I peaked early.
I know sometimes you're like, I wish I was older when we started. Like, gig. You had so much fun.
Yeah, that's true. I was talking to an actor the other day, and he didn't know that I was an actor, and he's like, oh yeah, it's tough. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I had a good run though. And then he was like, oh, what are you talking about? I was telling him about Mr. Young. He's like, hey, I know you. He like had watched the show.
I think he knew you already.
Yeah?
Yeah, because you said that he went right up to you and was like, hey, you're my stand-in, right?
Yeah, but I mean, that's also, I commend that for paying attention. He figured it out, right? And that's like something I always try to be good at, is like being friendly, talking to people, introducing myself, and like, you know, if you have a stand-in, you don't have to associate with them, but talking to them is like really professional.
My stand-in on Wonder was like 5'9". And yeah, she kind of looked like me, like she had the long blonde hair and stuff, but like the main thing is height, and I never wore heels or anything, right? It was just so funny. I was like, okay.
Anyways, I think maybe we could wrap it up. We'll do another one of these in the future where we have
where we're prepared.
Like, we just wanted to chat about cool on-set experiences, and I guess we talked about some other things too.
We're going away this weekend, so we're trying to get the podcast over with a little bit. So no, it's kind of true.
Yeah.
So next week it'll be better. This week, I'm sorry, it's not that great.
Yeah, we're both
be better.
We're both really looking forward to having this like weekend.
Yeah.
We're going away, visit family, and it's just going to be a nice little rest to have. So we're excited for that.
Okay, here we are with the charity of this week. Let's see if I can do it without messing up my words.
Just give yourself the advice you gave me yesterday. Just slow down.
The Worldwide Fund for Nature. It used to be called World Wildlife Fund, but it's not called that anymore. Oh. They changed the name to the Worldwide Fund for Nature. And it's an international non-government, obviously, based organization. They work in the field of wilderness preservation and the reduction of human impact on the environment, which is super important because we're kind of destroying Mother Earth right now. We're speaking of climate change so fast.
Okay, and I just have to say something really quickly. Whether you believe in climate change or global warming or whatever you want to call it, is there anything really wrong with being more environmentally conscious, like not being wasteful, like being less wasteful, even if you don't believe in climate change?
Like, the worst thing that can happen from us being more environmentally conscious is we were wrong and there's no global warming and the world is a better place.
Yeah, like we're literally producing less garbage.
Yeah. But anyways, fun fact, the World Wildlife Fund was founded by Prince Philip and a couple other people, but that's the only name I know. You can go to worldwildlife.org if you want to read more or donate. Yeah. Cool. And if you donate to any of the charities that we highlight, we give you a shout out.
Yeah, like just email us or, tweet us or something and let us know, and we'll feature you, shout you out.
Our social medias are in the description. The email's in the description. And the link for the charity will be in the description. Yeah. That's all. That was a good pace. Yeah, yesterday I had an audition, and afterwards I was calling Erika because I was kind of like, oh man, I just feel so unsettled. She's like, you gotta slow down. Well, no, you said I keep forgetting so many things. Yeah. And I was like, hey, you just gotta slow it down. My memory's been a little weird lately. Just been forgetting things that I don't usually forget. But that's life, we're adults. Yeah. We have car insurance payments now. Can we talk about that? We did in the last podcast. Oh, yeah. I hate ICBC. Yeah. I don't care if they know it. Yeah. Stop having a monopoly. Yeah. Let me insure my car somewhere else. Competition is always a good thing. Yeah. It keeps you humble. Yeah. And exactly. Sure, your workers won't get big bonuses anymore, but do they really need them? Anyways. Let's try to be a little less bitter, I guess. Not about ICBC. I'm not. ICBC, we can be bitter about. Everything else, gotta be more humble. More humble. That's not the opposite of bitter.
No?
No, isn't bitter like negative?
Yeah, and being like...
And the opposite of negative is positive?
Okay, what? Okay, yeah, you're right. Okay. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening and watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.